So this chapter served as a nice way to kind of start to wrap up the arc and bring everybody back together and kind of swap war stories, that sort of thing.
Rin's alive.
Toriko, Gourmet number 53, Escape. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the hungry-ass Toriko Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome, the hunger-inducing, the thrill-a-minute tale of Toriko. Our last chapter, of course, saw us with the main action part of this particular arc, the Regal Mammoth arc, wrapping up. And we saw at the end the GT robot that was controlled by Stargin going toe-to-toe with Toriko, and Toriko just dismantling it. And the end of the chapter was Stargin obviously giving in and giving up this vessel, this body that he was in, knowing that Toriko had just kind of evolved next level, and Toriko just go boom with a tenfold spiked Kuge punch, just blew his ass apart. So that's how the chapter left off, and that's actually how the volume left off as well. We finished up volume 6, I think it was. Oh yeah, Eric, because here we are in volume 7, so we'll just go ahead and flash that one on the screen so everybody can see, and we're just moving right along here in Toriko. Now, this chapter goes in, and volume, of course, kind of picks up, it actually picks up exactly where it left off. It's inside the mammoth. Rin has been presumed to be dead, and Toriko goes, and he's like, as you see all this, the parts just shattered everywhere from the GT robot. You see Toriko go and kind of catch a glimpse of Komatsu, and he's like, oh, it's over, Komatsu. And Komatsu just runs to him, man. I mean, he's had a hard time in here. And say what you want about Komatsu, and he doesn't have a spine, he doesn't have a backbone, and he's not this. I think he's a great supporting character, because although he's not superhuman, he doesn't have these evolved gourmet cells like everybody else. I really believe that he grew some big old balls when he stood up, of course, to Stargin and would not let him take his knife, the GT robot, of course, that was was controlled by him. And just in general, just some of the things that happened during the course of this, when he got paired off with Sunny for a while. I mean, to me, he really has risen to the occasion, you know what I mean? And I enjoy him as a supporting character, but that's just me. So, anyways, you wind up seeing that Rin is laying there, and Toriko goes, and he's like, oh, yeah, after he hugs Komatsu and everything like that, and he's like, oh, it's time to go, and he's like, unfortunately, you won't make this trip with us, and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, you kind of see this word bubble, like, coming from, like, an inner monologue of her. Maybe she's speaking to him, like, I don't know, they got a connection, like a mental connection or something. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, no. We'll be dining soon and this and that, Toriko. And I'm like, oh, really? Really? I honestly thought, because it was 3 or 4 chapters ago, I think that, that she was dead. And when other people said, oh, don't worry, you'll see many Rins throughout the series, I didn't know if that referred to, like, because of the gourmet cells, maybe there was some way of being able to, like, clone her or something along those lines. Maybe there was other clones of her, and that was, in fact, just one of them that had died. But anyway, the bottom line is that Rin is alive, and we can assume that it's because everything's still sparkling and whatnot around, so we can assume that it's because they're still in that area where the jewel meat is, and that maybe just like the jewel meat rejuvenating and bringing Toriko back to life, kind of next level from eating it, maybe just being around it and everything else, because he talks about how, normally when the body dies, the decay that starts to set in and everything, it starts to turn to gas, and it's called the putrefaction, and basically that's what, makes a dead body smell, right? And he's like, but she doesn't smell like that. She smells like iron. And I'm like, oh, iron, huh? And he's like, but no, he's smelling the iron in her blood because her blood's still flowing. So although her breathing and her pulse is faint, it is in fact there. And he kind of just thanks the Regal Mammoth for everything. And that's what I got from it, was almost like he's just looking at it as like, you know what? The jewel meat is not looking a gift horse in the mouth. The jewel meat is what saved her and helped bring her back to life, or the mammoth itself. That's the only thing I can think of, because she was dead to rights, I thought, 3 or 4 chapters ago. But anyways, he grabs Komatsu, and they're like, we got to get the hell out of here. And he's like, wait, can't forget that. And he grabs the jewel meat, Of course, that's what they came here for. That's what we've been doing the last, 30, 35 chapters. And so then it goes and it takes us to outside the mammoth. And outside the mammoth, you've got Coco and Sunny, and the mammoth's just kind of going crazy out there. And Coco's like, man, we better take off and get away. And Sunny's like, no, we can't. They're still in there, and blah, 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 And Coco's like, didn't you just say that we're supposed to just kind of trust in our friends and believe in them? Wouldn't that be, not not beautiful of you to go, very ugly of you to do that. It's like, I'm sure they're right as rain. And then he's like, it's just like falling rain, you know? And then he says that, and then you see in the next instance, the, you know, everybody, because remember the Regal Mammoth is trying to expel everything from its body, like all foreign substances, when it's been doing that for a couple of chapters. So the Regal Mammoth is basically just like, just wants to spit these foreign entities out, right? And of course this thing's huge, so from 100, 200 feet up in the air, they all come flying out. Toriko's got to me over his shoulder, and they're like, Sonny, catch us with your hairnet, you know? And he's like, okay, he's going to get it ready and everything, and then he goes and he catches they catch a glimpse of the jewel meat, you know, and he's like, oh yeah, I'll make it as soft as a baby's bottom, and he's focusing on the jewel meat, he's talking to the jewel meat, and Toriko winds up going right through the net and smashing his face on the ground. And this is part of the comic relief stuff that I like, you know, it winds down some of the main action that's in the chapter, but you get some of this funny character interaction and development, and just some of the comedy I think is good, you know, who knows? Maybe it's because I have a childlike mentality. Maybe it's just because I like to smile and laugh and be entertained. I don't know. But it was funny in my eyes. So they wind up getting out of there, of course, coming out of there, and then, you know, the jewel meat's looking all good and everything is good to go. Komatsu, of course, is happy to see Koko, and he's like, no, you know, Sonny, your sister, you know, because obviously Rin is wounded. So then all of a sudden, Sonny does what I think is kind of a little weird, because honestly, like, hair is still hair. Like, I don't care how beautiful he thinks he is and everything else, it's still hair, right? Okay, and I know he's got these sensors and everything else, but hair is still hair. And I don't want, like, greasy, oily hair inside of me. And all of a sudden his hair goes, and, like, does this little thing and, like, you know, starts, like, performing hair operation on her, you know? And I'm like, what, son? He's a surgeon, too? And he's like, oh, it's a little more than first aid. I'm just sewing her up, you know? And Koko says a medical team will be there soon. He sent Kiss, you know, to go get them and everything else. But I just thought it was a little bit weird, the whole, like, you know, the hairs, the sensors are actually going to go and sew her up and everything like that. It's like, can't anybody just use some scissors and thread, you know, and give her little stitches there? Or do we got to use the weird, creepy hair thing? I think that's a little too far for me anyway. But so then we go and they're like, oh yeah, you know, I wonder where Terry is. I hope he didn't bite off more than he can chew, you know. And all of a sudden Terry comes over and he's riding the Obasaurus. Because if you remember, we left him in the Devil's Athletic, right? And he was, and Stargin, well, the Stargin controlled GT robot left him to fight the Obasaurus so he could go and obviously come to the Regal Mammoth. And we know how that turned out. So we haven't seen Terry, though, in, like, you know, 5 or 10 chapters. And Terry's riding the Obasaurus, right? And it's so funny because Toriko's like, oh, Terry, that's great. Did you make the Obasaurus your bitch? And I mean, he actually says your slave, but, you know, that's what it is. And the Obasaurus is like, ugh. Terry goes and jumps off. He's all happy. Everybody's excited. Kiss winds up coming in there, and they can see the medical team coming. And they actually have the baby mammoth, so they assume that they've extracted the jewel meat from it already. Now to calm down the big mammoth mother, you know, and as they go to place it down, Toriko goes and kind of says this little, like, you know, almost like a little inner thanks to the thing. You know, he said, Regal Mammoth, you've given me a great gift. Koko even notices that Toriko's aura, that whole death thing that he had, Toriko was the one that was supposed to die. He's the one that went to the gates of hell and came back, because he's like, now his aura is, like, so much stronger and everything else. So that was his prediction. He doesn't know who the Shadow of Death was hanging over at the time, but now he knows that it was Toriko, and Toriko basically went to the gates of hell and slapped Satan in the face and said, no, I'm going back, man. So I got shit to do, man. And so, which I thought was great, you know, just how it was explained and depicted. So that's how things kind of wrap up over, at least in that portion of the chapter. We get a thing where, you know, Toriko says that thing to the mammoth, and you've given me a great gift, and blah blah and this and that. And the next thing you know, the mammoth is just, you think the mammoth's gonna be happy because the baby's back. Mammoth is still on a crazed rampage, right? Had its innards torn up, was fighting inside and everything else. Baby's gone, you know, been poisoned. This thing's like going to stomp on him again, and they're like, Sonny, use your spatula. And he's like, no, Koko, use your poison. They're all just running like hell. Toriko's got the jewel meat over his shoulder, and they're going, you know. So then we wind up seeing the last actual page of the chapter, which is kind of cool, and I hope is kind of the next segue into something big over here. We know that we've seen 3 of the 4 kings, obviously, and we've heard about Zebra, which is the 4th one. And I keep wanting to say Zebra because that's how it's spelled, but everybody tells me it's Zebra. But anyway, Zebra, whatever you want to call it, you know, hasn't gotten mentioned in a little while. And then at the last page of the chapter, after we get this over here, we get in the gourmet laboratory, we get a, oh yeah, you know, wasn't seeing you in a lion, you know, haven't seen you in a lion's age, Chief Mansom. And then he says, well, look what the cat dragged in. How are you, Vice President? So that's kind of cool. Is Zebra with you? And that's how the chapter ends off. So I can't wait to dig into the next one over here and see what's going to happen, what the next arc is. You know, I don't know if there's another couple of chapters wrapping this one up or what. But, man, I am thoroughly engrossed and entertained in Toriko. So that is how the chapter ends off, though. And I guess my question for you is, what are your thoughts on Sunny and the whole hair operation thing? Do you think it's too much? Do you think it's a little bit strange to have these little hairs with feelers operating on you? I mean, I guess not, because if you think about it, these little things can go into your pores and can kind of come and, like, rub up against you. They said it's like coming up and licking somebody, and I don't know, man. Just personally, like, Sunny, he's cool, but at the same time, I'd be like, man, you just stand over there. I'm going to be right here, you know? So I'm going to be right here, like, at least 25 feet away from you or whatever your range is, you know? Because, I don't know, it just, something about that just a little creepy to me. So, anyway, let me know what you think, brothers and sisters, in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button, if you should think that I deserve it, or if you're hungry, or just because it's Monday. I think it'll be Monday. Maybe Monday. Anyways, we look forward to catching all of you in the next one, nation.
Come on over and see more drawings like this on my Facebook and Instagram pages.